Hello darlings, how the devil are you? If you've been a long time follower of the channel, you know that we've been covering the GTA catastrophe that's been going on. Essentially, there are some very passionate developers out there trying to do a reverse engineering project. There's one called RE3 and there's one called REVC. And these are basically taking Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City and applying some love to them and doing fantastic things with them. Unfortunately, they have been hit with DMCAs and now they've been hit with a second one recently, and I'm just going to give you an update on what's going on. So we first covered this story in February and they were hit with a DMCA and asked to take their projects offline. And ironically, it was the coverage of the reverse engineering project that actually sparked off the awareness to it and hence the DMCA. As you can imagine, the project leads weren't too happy with this, so they went ahead and filed a counterclaim because in their mind's eye, they thought they weren't actually doing anything wrong. And they stated, "We believe that any code in this repo that is similar to the code or any other content owned by Take-Two is either unprotected by copyright or is permitted under fair use." And they went on to say, "We have figured we have had a good case for fair use on the grounds that we are improving and fixing the game as well as bringing it to the new platforms. This was a reason for quite a few people to purchase the games from Take-Two to play it on their favourite platforms. So in fact, we're only making them money and we figured it would be unwise for them to actually go after us." So they filed the counterclaim and waited 14 days. There was no reply from my understanding and the repo was then reinstated. Now, to be sure that they weren't going to get into any further trouble, they went to legal advisors and say, are we at risk of being sued? And their advice was simply, yes, this is always going to be an issue. Unfortunately, there were no sleeping dogs in this situation, as it seems that Take-Two then went on to sue the two lead developers behind this. And they basically said, "The two developers were well aware they do not possess the right to copy, adapt and distribute derivatives of the GTA source code or the audiovisual elements of the games, and that doing so constitutes copyright infringement." Additionally, they also did finally mention the GitHub counterclaim, and they said they knowingly filed bad faith counter notifications and it materially misrepresented the legality of their content. Apparently claiming that because they allegedly reverse engineered the game's source code, they somehow cannot be liable for copyright infringement. And so we end up here today, and it's a real shame because now the project has finally been taken permanently offline. And this is really sad because I know as a developer myself, these guys would have poured their passion into this project, spent a huge amount of hours investing into this, all for it to just be taken away in a legal dispute. Now Take-Two are famous for going after projects that mod their source code, and apparently they've got their eyes set on a few more projects as well. I know there's all sorts of laws and rules and regulations and there's a reason why these things have to happen, but personally I think it's a real shame. At heart, I think if a project ultimately ends up with the parent company who owns the source code still earning money, and this is simply done just as a passion project, I don't see the harm in it. I know with these two projects, I believe they still had to own the original game if they wanted to actually play them. It just simply added on features that made the game better. But we are living in an age where remaster culture is a big thing now. Companies have realised that they can take previous properties, remake them, polish them up and sell them at full price again. And ultimately, I guess if people are doing it for free, then they aren't going to earn any money from it. I think modding is on a decline. If you have a look at some of the games out there that have done really, really well, it's always the ones with strong modding communities. Have a look at Left 4 Dead, for example. Skyrim is a golden example of this. Developers have let people go out, improve, add additions, put content out there for them free that makes people still want to play the game and enjoy it in a different way. It just would be nice to see companies of all levels having more support in the modding space. Look at games like Darkest Dungeon. Darkest Dungeon 2 is coming around the corner and the devs have already documented that they've said when the game is fully fleshed out and it's in a stable state, they're going to put in modding tools for the community so that they can put their own additions into it. This is something I find extremely admirable, and I think more companies should look at this and look to help the community build on to the games that they love and adore. But anyway, I will keep you up to date with all the news on this subject. I hope you're all well, everyone. This is a bit of a sad story, but for now, have a great day and I'll be back with more news and reviews soon.